my name is Shiti, and I am Chief Marketing Officer at STEPN. So what's STEPN? It's a Web3 lifestyle app. Essentially, you download the app from App Store and you walk, jog, or run, and then you can earn NFT rewards and tokens within the app. You can swap these tokens for fiat and have a cup of coffee or do anything that you want in real life. Web 1 was, as it's now famously written about, Web 1 was mostly about read, Web 2 is about read and write, and Web 3 is read, write, and create. So what does that mean? So Web 1 was largely about protocols. So think of Netscape, which had 80%, 90% market share. It was centralized. It was static, read-only content, almost no interaction with the user. And the focus was on one large company. Then came along the Facebooks, the blogs, the messengers, the social media, the user-generated content. And that's why we say read, write, and that's Web 2. So essentially, again, on the same axis of content, interaction, and focus, the content was not static, it was shared, it was dynamic. Interaction was not completely absent. There was user interaction via social media. And then focus was not so much as the company, but community. And now we're in what we call as Web 3, where you've got moved on from social networks to clouds to AI, where again, content is content connection based research and analysis. So there's a lot of intelligent and smart tools. In terms of interaction, there are AI-driven services, and the focus is individual based because you are giving the ownership of assets back to the individuals. So just keeping in line with those definitions of read, write, create, and giving back the ownership, there could be 4 key ways that we can see some changes happen in Web 3. The first one right off the bat, I think, is NFTs. So if tokenomics are the foundation, NFTs are the bricks in the walls of Web 3. I think the possibilities of NFTs are almost as limitless as blockchains. There are a lot of things that we currently use that could be thought as NFTs. For example, ticketing, pieces of music. So it's not completely an alien concept. It's about implementing that technology to the use cases that we currently have. There are essentially broad and secular use cases, and I can go on and on about that, but that's just starting to scratch the surface. The second could be synthetic media and AI tools. Now, I know everybody talks about metaverse, but the beginning of that is having a digital identity. And a lot of us, again, already have social friends in digital media. We have social identities in digital media. And synthetic media are becoming increasingly popular across parts of the world. So building this digital identity, doing business and having fun in metaverse might gain traction. The third one, and it's a very important one, I feel, is the creator economy. So it is directly correlated with, again, giving the ownership back to the users, back to the creators. But the platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, which had some limitations in terms of centralizing all the power, centralizing all the data, can now be solved for with decentralization of Web3. Instagram and Spotify are trying out NFTs with limited creators. I essentially call this as sort of on-ramp, right? This is that gap between the Web2 and Web3 adoption where we are all building the bridge. So whether it's Coinbase or Robinhood issuing crypto wallets, or whether it's Instagram and Spotify trying out NFTs, we are walking very carefully on that bridge, or whether it's STEPN, where 1/3 of our users already come from crypto non-natives. So we have daily 800,000 daily active users, over 3 million monthly users. Those are huge numbers for Web3, and a lot of them already come from crypto non-natives. Last but not the least, again, VR. So VR has been around for ages, but as the technology matures, VR is expected to grow significantly. And I think that combined with metaverse is one thing to watch out for. We have a vision that everybody, millions, if not billions, should experience this benefit of Web3 that some of us have already started to experience. For example, to put it very simply, earlier you could play Fortnite for hours and hours, right? And spend a lot of money, time, effort on acquiring game assets, skins, customizing your identities. And yet at the end of it, what you could hope to do with those is, fortunately, unfortunately, go to a shady dark corner of the dark web and then hope to sell it. Whereas now with blockchain, you can absolutely frictionlessly have not only the ownership of your assets, but move them to real world for real money, right? And that is something that blockchain space affords. STEPN is just the beginning of that, where we have three key visions. One is to nudge people towards healthier lifestyles. B, build this bridge between Web 2 and Web 3. And C, contribute positively towards carbon neutrality. So every month we donate 100,000 US dollars towards carbon credit removal. So by nudging people towards what they already do, right? So the behavior change is not teaching them to walk. The behavior change is to make them walk regularly so that we can then defeat the pandemic of obesity and cardiac arrest. So the idea, therefore, is how do we take the behaviors that already exist in Web 2 and then bring them to Web 3 to create better social impact? And a lot of people ask, how have we grown so fast? I think our biggest achievement has been accomplishing behavior change. Like that has been the holy grail of building apps since time memorial. The holy grail of app usage is how do you change behaviors? And with our app gamification features, with our easy UI UX, with our rewarding incentive structure, we've ensured that gamers are not just cashing out and running, that users find value within the ecosystem with our tokenomics, with our NFT play, and actually reward them socially for the behavior of walking, running, jogging outdoors. And that's how STEPN is doing that. Carmen, we're all so early in this space, right? Like I said, internet, probably think 1990s. How internet was perceived. Everything was illegal. It was compared to missiles by government. It was supposed to be as dangerous. Even something as simple as encryption. Well, encryption is not simple, but it was the devil. Like so many bad things could happen. I think as a total Web3, we are in that phase. We're also early. So the projects that are happening now are only beginning to scratch the surface. And it's not just because our imagination is limited, it's also because we're still very early with the technology. Like there's a reason why Instagram and Spotify are only testing the surface with limited creators, because in order for us to be onboarding those 100 million, next 100 million users, we need to create robust L1s. We need to solve for transaction speeds. We need to solve for gas fees for that mass adoption to happen. And if we fasten that more than we can afford in technology at this rate, we'll get rejected. And that will be worse for the users to come back. So I think we're going at the right speed. It's Web3 speed is anyway breakneck. And we need to let the technology mature to onboard more and more users. So we shall see many stellar projects coming up. What Web3 allows simply is for the users to get involved. That in itself, I believe, is such a luxury, which we did not have in the value creation or the wealth creation, for example, in Web 2. The whole nature of internet as it evolved was centralized behavior. So if you're not paying for the services that you got for internet, there could only be one monetization model, which came out to be advertising. And because advertising came out to be the strongest or the dominant business model, your data became hostage to the big companies that we have now come to despise. Web3 allows for that wealth creation, that different business models, different monetization model right at the grassroots level. So the best way to engage at an individual level is to try out as much stuff as possible. of course, without wrecking yourself. So read as many white papers as possible of interesting projects, do a lot of research, watch your favorite podcasts and YouTube videos such as this, and learn from the best of the best people in this industry. Learn about the technology, learn about the fundamental principles that drive Web3, and then experiment. Open a MetaMask wallet, try and transfer a few tokens from here and there. And that would be the best way to start learning about Web3. And then soon enough, you'll be tempted to create something on Web3 as well. The main principle of Web3 is to decentralize, is to get users into the space where they own the digital, their assets. If somehow we end up centralizing even Web3, then we're not creating any difference, right? And that could happen, as funny as it may seem at this moment, that could happen where the power, the wealth, the funds can get concentrated to a few players. And I see that as a potential risk. A lot of people are aware. I think the way Web3 was born was with this intent to give back to people, to have everybody included in this space. So I hope that is not going to be the way forward, but that's potentially one risk that I see. Web3 matters. For that, we need to look at the problems that are there with centralized platforms. Now, centralized platforms follow a very predictable life cycle. At first, they do everything that they can to recruit users and third-party complements like creator, developers, and businesses. They do this to strengthen their network effect, right? As platform moves up the adoption of S-curve, their power over users and third parties steadily grows. And we've seen that with the big Web2 players. And when they hit the top of that S-curve, their relationship with network participants changed from positive sum to zero sum. And without taking names, I think people can relate to the powers that be that I'm talking about. Now, let's talk about Web3. In Web3, ownership and control is decentralized, as we all know. Users, creators, builders can therefore own pieces of internet by owning either tokens, both non-fungible, which is NFTs, and fungibles. And what these tokens therefore do is give users the property rights, give the ability to own a piece of internet themselves. And I think that is something extraordinary special that Web3 offers that currently we don't have. So blockchains therefore become these special computers that anyone can access, but no one owns.